Samsy. Story time with Dora. We's just hanging around, around the world in 80 days. Part 17. There's little Dora. That's the setup on little Dora. And we're going to start this thing off. We's on the 89, heading south back into the valley. We left the Coral Springs. We just kind of wrapping this thing up. And we're gonna start off a little town called Cameron. And it's coming up right away here. And I've always wanted to stop there, and I never have. And I just never have. And I'm going to have to do it because it looks like a super interesting little area. You'll see as we go through here, there's an old bridge and stuff to check out. And I think we're going to finish this thing up today right around Munds Park. So we getting back into the valley there. All right, now this story. Around the world in 80 days. Okay, so the boys, Phileas Fogg and Passepartout, and have been joined by Aouda, and they made it to Hong Kong. And they found out that Aouda's cousin, or whoever that was, relative, is no longer there, so she's going to have to come along with them, at least as far as Europe anyway. So we're going to pick it up where Passepartout was just kind of checking things out, looking around in the harbor and just kind of noticing all the boats and all the different people, and we'll pick it up right. Oh, is this little town right here? Yeah, my glasses out. Oh yeah, I can see it coming up there. There's this big old cut through the earth there, and there might even be some water down in there every now and again at least. But they got a little RV park there, and a little curio stop kind of thing. I think it was probably one of those trading posts kind of thing, because there probably is water there somewhere. And okay, so again, let's get back to this story. I'm gonna put my head down, and we'll just kind of go right through it, and we'll just go with that. Okay, so Passepartout noticed in the crowd a number of natives who seemed very old and were dressed in yellow. On going into a barber's to get shaved, he learned that these ancient men were all at least 80 years old. See, there's the old bridge there. And there's that whole bit there. There's a whole gift shop trading post area on the right here. There might be an RV park on the right there too, but I know there's one on the left for sure there. And it looks like if you spend a few days there, you could get some really nice pictures. Okay, here we go. At least, these ancient men, these guys wearing yellow, were at least 80 years old, at which age they are permitted to wear yellow, which is the imperial color. Passepartout, without exactly knowing why, thought this very funny. On reaching the quay where they were to embark on the Carnatic, he was not astonished to find Fix walking up and down. The detective seemed very much disturbed and disappointed. "This is bad," muttered Passepartout, "for the gentlemen of the Reform Club." He accosted Fix with a merry smile, as if he had not perceived that gentleman's chagrin. The detective had, indeed, good reasons to inveigh against the bad luck which pursued him. The warrant had not come. It was certainly on the way, but as certainly it could not reach Hong Kong for several days. And, this being the last English territory on Mr. Fogg's route, the robber would escape, unless he could manage to detain him. "Well, Monsieur Fix," said Passepartout, "have you decided to go with us? So far as America? Yes, returned Fix, through his set teeth. Good, exclaimed Passepartout, laughing heartily. I knew you could not persuade yourself to separate from us. Come and engage your berth. They entered the steamer's office and secured cabins for 4 persons. The clerk, as he gave them the tickets, informed them that the repairs on the Carnatic having been completed, the steamer would leave that very evening, and not the next morning, as he had been announced. That will suit my master all the better, said Passepartout. I will go and let him know. Oh, here's the big roundabout turn around here. You can go over to the Grand Canyon, I believe. Oh, well, it probably was. I'm not going to put my eyes back in and go back there and look. We'll just say it was. If not, let me have it. Ha ha. Okay. Let's wet the whistle there. This will suit my master. Yeah, okay. Fix now decided to make a bold move. He resolved to tell Passepartout all. It seemed to be the only possible means of keeping Phileas Fogg several days longer at Hong Kong. He accordingly invited his companion into a tavern, which caught his eye on the quay. On entering, they found themselves in a large room, handsomely decorated, at the end of which was a large camp bed furnished with cushions. Several persons lay upon this bed in a deep sleep. All at the small tables which were arranged about the room, some 30 customers were drinking English beer, porter, gin, and brandy, smoking the while long red clay pipes stuffed with little balls of opium mingled with essence of rose. From time to time, one of the smokers, overcome with the narcotic, would slip under the table, whereupon the waitress, taking him by the head and feet, carried and laid him upon the bed. The bed already supported 20 of these stupefied salts. Fix and Passepartout saw that they were in a smoking house haunted by those wretched, cadaverous, idiotic creatures to whom the English merchants sell every year the miserable drug called opium, to the amount of £1,400,000, thousands devoted to one of the most despicable vices which afflict humanity. The Chinese government has in vain attempted to deal with the evil by stringent laws. It passed gladly from the rich, to whom it was at first exclusively reserved, to the lower classes, and then its ravages could not be arrested. Opium is smoked everywhere, at all times, by men and women, in the Celestial Empire, and, once accustomed to it, the victims cannot dispense with it, except by suffering horrible bodily contortions and agonies. A great smoker can smoke as many as 8 pipes a day, but he dies in 5 years. It was in one of these dens that Fix and Passepartout, in search of a friendly glass, found themselves. Passepartout had no money, but willingly accepted Fix's invitation in the hope of returning the obligation at some future time. They ordered 2 bottles of port, to which the Frenchman did ample justice, while Fix observed him with close attention. They chatted about the journey, and Passepartout was especially merry at the idea that Fix was going to continue with them. When the bottles were empty, however, he rose to go and tell his master of the change in the time of the sailing of the Carnatic. Fix caught him by the arm and said, "Wait a minute." "Wait for what, Mr. Fix?" "I want to have a serious talk with you." "A serious talk?" cried Passepartout, drinking up the little wine that was left in the bottom of his glass. Well, talk about it tomorrow. I haven't time now." "Stay. What I have to say concerns your master." Passepartout at this looked attentively at his companion. Fix's face seemed to have a singular expression. He resumed his seat. "What is it that you have to say?" "Oh, okay, let's take a peekaboo here. Let's just take a little peekaboo. I was getting so involved in the story that I wasn't really paying attention here. Can't even quite remember where we're at. Flagstaff. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good green alligator right there. That's two good green alligators. Okay. Yeah. Oh, boy. There was a fire here recently. Oh, yes, I do remember this. Well, it's a new year. New fires to come. All right. So, Fix. Okay, here we go. We're just getting started on it. We just turned the page here. Fix placed his hand upon Passepartout's arm and, lowering his voice, said, "You have guessed who I am?" "Parbleu," said Passepartout, smiling. "Then I'm going to tell you everything." "Now that I know everything, my friend?" "Ah, that's very good. But go on. First, though, let me tell you that those gentlemen have put themselves in a useless expense." "Useless?" said Fix. "You speak confidently. It's clear that you don't know how large the sum is." "Of course I do," returned Passepartout. £20,000. "55,000, answered Fix, pressing his companion's hand. "What?" cried the Frenchman. "Has Monsieur Fogg dared £55,000? Well, there's all the more reason for not losing it an instant." He continued, getting up hastily. Fix pushed Passepartout back in his chair and resumed. £55,000. And if I succeed, I get £2,000. And if you help me, I'll let you have 500 of them. "Help you?" cried Passepartout, whose eyes were standing wide. "Yes. Help me keep Mr. Fogg here for 2 or 3 days." "Why, what are you saying? Those gentlemen are not satisfied with following my master and suspect his honor, but they must try to put obstacles in his way. I blush for them." "What do you mean?" "I mean, that is a piece of shameful trickery. They might as well waylay Mr. Fogg and put his money in their pockets. That's just what we count on doing." "It's a conspiracy, then," cried Passepartout, who became more and more excited as the liquor mounted in his head, for he drank without perceiving it. "A real conspiracy, and gentlemen, too? Bah!" Fix began to be puzzled. "Members of the Reform Club," continued Passepartout. "You must know, Monsieur Fix, that my master is an honest man, and that when he makes a wager, he tries to win it fairly." "But who do you think I am?" asked Fix, looking at him intently. "Parbleu, an agent of the members of the Reform Club, sent out here to interrupt my master's journey. But, though I have found you out some time ago, I've taken good care to say nothing about it to Mr. Fogg." "He knows nothing, then?" "Nothing," replied Passepartout, again emptying his glass. The detective passed his hand across his forehead, hesitating before he spoke again. What should he do? Passepartout's mistake seemed sincere, but it made his design more difficult. All right, we're just going to cruise through town here. We're just going to cruise through town. And there's probably construction, so we got to do a little bit of wiggling, woggling when we get around there. Oh, right. Here's a good little public service announcement here. This bit up here, getting onto the freeway. If you've never done this one, trying to get onto the 40 going west from the 89. There's a reason why things stack up the way they do, and you'll see everybody try to bail over and get on here, and I've done this a few times, and I knew I was going to be able to get past that guy. So you'd watch me just wiggle in there, and everybody starts diving for it right away, because there's if you happen to miss it, oh boy, you gotta, oh boy, it is just everybody does this. And then you see the guys up there, they see it at the last minute, and oh boy, nobody has any sympathy. It's like, you should have known, and you're, how was I supposed to know? They don't tell you that only that one lane is the one that gets on the freeway until it's the one getting on the freeway. They've been working on it now, so they may have done a little something with it there, but it's one of those local knowledge situations. Right here is where it says, oh, this one's getting on the freeway, and it's already getting on the damn freeway. Okay, here we go. What should he do? Passepartout, oh yeah. Okay, his design more difficult. It was evident that the servant was not the master's accomplice, and Fix had been inclined to suspect. Well, said the detective to himself, as he is not an accomplice, he will help me. He had no time to lose. Fogg must be detained at Hong Kong, so he resolved to make a clean breast of it. Listen to me, said Fix abruptly. I am not, as you think, an agent of the members of the Reform Club. Bah! Retorted Passepartout with a air of raillery. We're going to leave it. I'm not looking it up. Raillery. I am a police detective sent out here by the London office. You, a detective? I will prove it. Here is my commission. Passepartout was speechless with astonishment when Fix displayed his document, the genuineness of which could not be doubted. Mr. Fogg's wager, resumed Fix, is only a pretext, of which you and the gentlemen of the Reform are dupes. He had a motive for securing your innocent complicity. But why? Listen. On the 28th of last September, a robbery of £55,000 was committed at the Bank of England by a person whose description was fortunately secured. Here is his description. It answers exactly to that of Mr. Phileas Fogg. What nonsense! Cried Passepartout, striking the table with his fist. My master is the most honorable of men. How can you tell? You know scarcely anything about him. You went into his service the day he came away, and he came away on a foolish pretext, without trunks and carrying a large amount in banknotes. And yet you are bold enough to assert that he is an honest man? Yes, yes, repeated the poor fellow mechanically. Would you like to be arrested as his accomplice? Passepartout, overcome by what he had heard, held his head between his hands and did not dare to look at the detective. Phileas Fogg, the savior of Aouda, that brave and generous man? Generous man. A robber? And yet how many? presumptions that were against him. Passepartout essayed to reject the suspicions which forced themselves upon his mind. He did not wish to believe that his master was guilty. "Well, what do you want of me?" said he, at last with an effort. "See here," replied Fix. "I have tracked Mr. Fogg to this place, but as yet I have failed to receive the warrant of arrest for which I sent to London. You must help me to keep him here in Hong Kong." I will share with you the £2,000 reward offered by the Bank of England." "Never," replied Passepartout, who tried to rise but fell back exhausted in mind and body. "Mr. Fix," he stammered, "even should what you say be true, if my master is really the robber you are seeking for, which I deny, I have been, am in his service. I have seen his generosity and goodness, and I will never betray him. Not for all the gold in the world. I come from a village where they don't eat that kind of bread." "You refuse?" "I refuse. Consider that I've said nothing," said Fix, "and let us drink." "Yes, let us drink." Passepartout felt himself yielding more and more to the effects of the liquor. Fix, seeing that he must, at all hazards, be separated from his master, wished to entirely overcome him. Some pipes full of opium lay upon the table. Fix slipped one into Passepartout's hand. He took it, put it between his lips, lit it, drew several puffs, and his head, becoming heavy under the influence of the narcotic, fell upon the table. "At last," said Fix, seeing Passepartout unconscious, "Mr. Fogg will not be informed of the Carnatic's departure, and, if he is, he will have to go without this cursed Frenchman." And, after paying his bill, Fix left the tavern. He just ditched him. Oh man, he like a roofied Passepartout. Okay, let's take a peek. We're going to take a little peek at this drive, because that's the end of the chapter, by the by. That's the end of the chapter. That's the end of chapter 19, and we're on to chapter 20 now. Chapter 20, in which Fix comes face to face with Phileas Fogg. Oh man, Phileas Fogg is going to sniff him out like a dog. Oh yeah, we still got quite a ways to go. We got a few minutes to go. So let's continue on here, and we'll just boogie on into chapter 20. Oh, it's kind of a pretty drive, and you can see there's fires because there's a lot of smoke in the air, and it just doesn't stop all summer long. Okay, chapter 20, in which Fix comes face to face with Phileas Fogg. While these events were passing at the opium house, Mr. Fogg, unconscious of the danger he was in of losing the steamer, was quietly escorting Aouda about the streets of the English quarter, making the necessary purchases for the long voyage before them. It was all very well for an Englishman like Mr. Fogg to make the tour of the world with a carpet bag. A lady could not be expected to travel comfortably under such conditions. He acquitted his task with characteristic serenity, and invariably replied to the remonstrances of his fair companion, who was confused by his patience and generosity. It is in the interest of my journey, a part of my program. The purchases made, they returned to the hotel, where they dined at a sumptuously served table d'hôte. I don't know what that is. You know, no. In which Aouda, shaking hands with her protector after the English fashion, retired to her room for rest. Mr. Fogg absorbed himself throughout the evening in the perusal of the Times and Illustrated London News. He had been capable of being astonished. Oh, hang on a second. Just hang on a second. Let's do that one again. Had he been capable of being astonished at anything, it would have been not to see his servant return at bedtime. But, knowing that the steamer was not to leave for Yokohama until the next morning, he did not disturb himself about the matter. When Passepartout did not appear the next morning to answer his master's bell, Mr. Fogg, not betraying the least vexation, contented himself with taking his carpet-bag, calling Aouda, and sending for a palanquin. It was then 8 o'clock. At 9:30, it being then high tide, the Carnatic would leave the harbor. Mr. Fogg and Aouda got into the palanquin, their luggage being brought after on a wheelbarrow, and half an hour later stepped onto the quay whence they were to embark. Mr. Fogg then learned that the Carnatic had sailed the evening before. He had expected to find not only the steamer, but his domestic, and was forced to give up both. But no sign of disappointment appeared on his face, and he merely remarked to Aouda, "It is an accident, madame, nothing more." At this moment, a man who had been observing him attentively approached. It was Fix, who, bowing, addressing let's do all that again. Let's just do all that again. I kind of got lost in it there. At this moment, a man had been observing him attentively approached. It was Fix, who, bowing, addressed Mr. Fogg. "Were you not, like me, sir, a passenger by the Rangoon, which arrived yesterday?" "I was, sir," replied Mr. Fogg coldly, "but I have not the honor. Pardon me. I thought I should find your servant here." "Do you know where he is, sir?" asked Aouda anxiously. "What?" responded Fix, feigning surprise. "Is he not with you?" "No," said Aouda. "He has not made his appearance since yesterday. Could he have gone on board the Carnatic without us?" "Without you, madame?" answered the detective. "Excuse me, did you intend to sail in the Carnatic?" "Yes, sir." "So did I, madame, and I am excessively disappointed. The Carnatic, its repairs being completed, left Hong Kong 12 hours before the stated time, without any notice being given, and we must now await a week for another steamer." As he said a week, Fix felt his heart leap for joy. Fogg detained at Hong Kong for a week? There would be time for the warrant to arrive, and fortune at last favored the representative of the law. His honor may be imagined when he heard Mr. Fogg. No. His honor. His horror may be imagined when he heard Mr. Fogg say in his placid voice, "But there are other vessels besides the Carnatic, it seems to me, in the harbor of Hong Kong." And, offering his arm to Aouda, he directed his steps towards the docks in search of some craft about to start. Fix, stupefied, followed. It seemed as if he were attached to Mr. Fogg by an invisible thread. Chance, however, appeared really to have abandoned the man it had hitherto served so well. For 3 hours, Phileas Fogg wandered about the docks with the determination, if necessary, to charter a vessel to carry him to Yokohama. but he could only find vessels which were loading or unloading, and which could not therefore set sail. Fix began to hope again. But Mr. Fogg, far from being discouraged, was continuing his search, resolved not to stop if he had to resort to Macao, when he was accosted by a sailor on one of the wharves. "Is your honor looking for a boat? Have you a boat ready to sail?" "Yes, your honor, a pilot boat, number 43, the best in the harbor." "Does she go fast?" "Between 8 and 9 knots an hour." "Will you look at her?" "Yes." "Your honor will be satisfied with her. It is for a sea excursion?" "No, for a voyage." "A voyage?" "Yes. Will you agree to take me to Yokohama?" The sailor leaned on the railing, opened his eyes wide, and said, "Is your honor joking?" "No. I have missed the Carnatic, and I must get to Yokohama by the 14th at the latest to take the boat for San Francisco." Okay. Let's just knock it off right there. I can just knock it off. We're going into the valley of hell here. You can tell because of the smoke and the smell of sulfur. Okay. Let's just take one more little quick look at it. And, not much exciting happens. And generally this I-17 thing, you're just kind of hoping beyond hope that nothing goes wrong, because when it does, boy, you're sitting there for a long time. All right, guys, thanks so much for coming along. Oh, there's another little picture of the pink coral sand dunes. And, oh, yeah, we'll say good day to you. Oh, we got to do this thing here then. Sam C. And, thank you, Rosie. I thought I was getting all out of sorts there, but now I'm all right.